Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Gonzalo's Place. It is great to see you. An essential tool we all use are headphones, and we have got a panel for you brought to you by Harman Professional. It includes Dr. Sean Olive, who is a senior fellow with Harman Professional, Nick Mack, the chief engineer from Electric Field Studios, and Damien Curry, another Harman Professional. We will get to them in just a second. They're going to tell you everything you know. But a couple of updates. One, Dave and I have signed up for Jammcard Mentors. You want to go there if you need any advice. We're there. We're available to talk to you. You can go to jammcard.com/mentors for any information. What do you get out of the session? Whatever information you need, whatever advice you need, contacts, relationships. Come to Dave's profile, come to my profile. There's more folks there that you know, more folks that we're recommending, like Tiffany from Girls Make Beats, and so many more. Go check out Jammcard, sign up, and we'll talk to you. I think the price is reasonable and the time is well spent, and we want to help advance your career. Got some great shows coming up. Andrew Sheps, an Atmos discussion with Bob Clearmountain and Ben from Dolby, Soundwave, Jack Antonoff, Need to Breathe. We've got an incredible show with Manny American from Verse. We are interviewing the NFL coming up. That's going to be the music folks. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be stuff. Lots of good stuff coming from Gonzalo's Place. We're really excited about it. So the episode you're going to see, we shot from the Harman Experience Center, which is quite the facility. So we decided to show it to you. Take a look at the incredible Harman Experience Center.
Hi, I'm Damien Curry. I'm the product manager for recording and broadcasts for Harman Professional, and we're going to take a quick tour through the Experience Center. Within the recording and broadcast category, we create products for everyone from the beginning content creator to the post-production engineer and everyone in between. Here we have our AKG headphone wall. This wall represents over 50 years of attention to detail, technological advances, and dedication to pristine audio quality in professional headphones. Not only is AKG a world-class leader in professional headphones, but we've also made some of the most renowned recording microphones ever created, specifically with the C12 VR and the C414 microphone. Here we have our soundstage featuring Martin Leyden. Harman Professional and AKG Audio would like to personally thank the entire Gonzalo's Place staff for joining us today in the Experience Center here in Northridge, California.
So the shop is incredible, as you can see. If you get a chance, take a tour. Our folks on site, Becky and Chris, incredible, and we love our relationship with them, and it's just amazing what they've done inside there. And we also had a chance to have the episode you're about to see done there. Again, Dr. Sean Olive, brilliant. Nick Mack, brilliant. Damien Curry, brilliant. Dave and her, not so much. But here's a round table on headphones and everything you need to know. We are sitting in a beautiful campus at Harman and JBL and all kinds of stuff here. We're going to talk headphones. Let me introduce you to our illustrious guest. Sitting over there, Damien Curry, an amazing musician, product manager here. This cat is a superstar, Nick Mack, who beyond running Electric Field Studio from a technological standpoint, incredible guitar player, Warped, Post Malone, Louis Bell. You know the Master Blaster, Dave Pensado, he's here with us. And one of the brainiest guys going in the headphone space, Dr. Sean Olive. Now, the most important thing about Sean Olive is he's a Canadian like me, which is why we're sitting together. But he's senior fellow here, and we're gonna learn all about what he knows. We're not gonna be able to get it all in because we'd be here for a week. But you use headphones, and headphones are going through permutations all the time as we speak, so let's get into it. Apparently, piano player in college, didn't like what was going on, decided to get in the technological space and move it forward. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I started out as a musician and didn't like the recordings. Went into recording at McGill University and studied sound recording.
Montreal.
It's Montreal. And as I was studying recording, I realized there was a lot of controversy about monitoring, well, what the speaker should be. And that led me to the National Research Council in Ottawa, where I met Dr. Floyd Toole, who was doing all this cool research in loudspeakers. And that's where I became a researcher to figure out how we should design loudspeakers and more recently headphones.
The thing about this panel that is interesting is that we've got the education technological side, we've got use cases, we get headphones all the time, and some we use for mixing, some we can't. You're in studio situations, both of you wear headphones. What I notice kind of as a consumer is anytime something is commoditized, sometimes it doesn't stay as good, right? And so we've seen all this stuff. Headphones are fashion pieces, and then they're go-to pieces, and then they're, how you answer your phone. Isn't the point that it still has to sound good? Shouldn't it be?
Yeah, that's my passion is how do we make it sound good?
Are you optimistic about where we are?
Yeah, compared to 10 years ago when we started this research, things have really, I think what was lacking was the science. And you're right, there was this trend of buying headphones based on marketing and looks. And one of the first projects or studies we did was we did a blind test where people weren't aware of which headphone they were listening to. And we found that when they actually just focus on the sound, they didn't like that popular headphone.
Dr. Olive, from my chair as a user, 10 years ago, there was a stigma attached to headphones. And right now, we live with headphones. It's a headphone technology that's really grown. And how do you think that morphed, and where did that stigma come from? Because my headphones get a lot of use right now.
Well, I mean, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I didn't even listen to headphones. I mean, I had a pair in college, which was a long time ago, so I wasn't disturbing my roommate, but I never thought that headphones were going to, find this resurgence. So I think the iPod, the iPhone, and streaming really changed that. And as soon as we carried phones around with us that could access music, then headphones really took off.
Do you think the pandemic had anything to do with the acceleration of headphone use?
Oh yeah, for sure. Our luxury sales and our headphone sales actually increased during the pandemic. So people were staying at home. They were doing phone calls, video conferencing, and the headphone sales really took off.
What do you find in the studio? So you work with such amazing artists, some huge, everybody upcoming. It seems like everybody Electric Fields is hot. Are they the specificity with which people pick headphones? Yeah. It's a personal choice.
I feel so. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that right?
I think it's something that's really close to your ears and on your head for sometimes extended periods of time. I mean, I personally want it to feel good and sound good. I mean, the style I'm not terribly concerned about, but I think that there's some preference involved for sure.
Because whether you're tracking, now mixing, just listening, talking on the phone, it has some, nothing is funnier to me, because not everybody gets it right? So when you're answering your phone, sometimes your earbuds can do too much, and you just see people, doing Morse code, trying to figure out how to say hello, and that's too far.
That's too much for me. Yeah.
And so there's something about the form factor and which is as important, but then you know, when we talk to Dolby people, Atmos and stuff, and spatial audio, and there's these, you know, wars starting between people. They're calling it different things when sometimes it's the same thing. Yeah. But it's a burgeoning space, right? And as you see it now, do you see things in the future that it can go to? Because I keep thinking, okay, we hit the mark, and then they go to another place.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Dolby Atmos, so I think the next phase is you know, immersive audio over headphones, and with that is personalization. So the more closely the sound matches your ears, and there's these things called HRTFs, head-related transfer functions. So I think the focus now is to capture how your head and your ears impact the 3D sound and incorporating that into the playback experience.
We were talking about HRTF just the other day, weren't we?
Oh, yeah. We do that all the time.
All the time.
QB504.
That's when we order sushi. Yeah. Can I get two HRTFs? But...
Well, let me throw in a 605 question.
Okay.
How do you measure headphones? I still can't figure that out. I read where you measure it at the eardrum. You can't put a little tiny mic in there or something? I mean, how the hell do you do that?
So in the industry, there's these standardized test fixtures. So we don't actually measure them in humans. We measure them on tests.
So it's an approximation for humans.
It is an approximation, and you know, they have these things called ear simulators or ear couplers, and they're designed to try to simulate the resonance of the ear canal and simulate the acoustic impedance of the eardrum.
And is there such a thing called an anchor?
An anchor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes with a boat.
No, that somewhere out in the universe there's an example of what should be perfect. Was that called an anchor?
Baseline, maybe.
Yeah. Baseline? Well, I guess these standards are sort of the anchors, but they're not perfect. People's ear canals vary significantly, and it's always an average or an approximation. And but it gives you at least a reference so that, you know, I can measure a headphone with this reference, and you can measure it, and we can talk to each other about our results.
Damien, so you're inside a company that makes headphones. It's got high brand standard. Yep. You're a musician. You use them. You're in the studio. Are you constantly sort of aware of what your competition is doing? You measure your stuff and report that information back in. Are you kind of a forward-leaning person who can say, hey, I use these, I heard these, we're missing here? How does it happen in your role?
Yeah, well, for me, I have been using headphones for mixing, not just listening, for, I don't know, probably 15 years or so. Mm-hmm. So prior to actually joining Harman and AKG, I have had a lot of experience listening to different types of headphones and different brands and whatnot. So I do have an idea of what's out there, but more importantly, I think understanding the end user case, like what are we doing? What are we trying to do? And part of that process is understanding what music sounds like on whatever you're listening to. And then obviously what it should sound like, you know, if you're in the mixing process or whatever. So for me, it is, you do have to know what's out there, you know, some of the limitations, you know, who's doing things really well, you know, the things that you prefer, and, you know, what other people prefer. So
the thing that's fascinating from our perspective is we get to sort of, in an unofficial way, measure retail, measure people who use, measure sponsors, and so on and so forth. And one of our big sponsors is Sweetwater. And during the pandemic, the level of bedroom community sales, bedroom producer sales that they went to was just extraordinary. And those guys have neighbors. And so they've got a monitor on, you know, headphones are a critical thing for them. I mean, you can use monitors, but as soon as you turn it up, and then Mrs. Bickley next door banging on your wall. So headphones in that space are important, yes?
Yeah, I think that's I think where headphones really come in, because with the explosion of the, you know, bedroom producers and the work from home environment, now there's limitations to what kind of speakers you can set up in a room. So to me, a good set of headphones should fill that gap.
But from your standpoint, as a purist, you're able to sort of discern, let me put this silo, this is a marketing move, but this is not a headphone improvement thing. You're focusing on making sure that the quality is there, which, by the way, I think the marketplace caught up and said, yeah, it's a fashion thing, not a great necessarily headphone, but we get it. But now I think the road is open to, let's get back to something that really sounds good and take it to another place. Because sounding good isn't just sounding good to a musician, right? It's sounding good to non-musicians, to just people, correct?
Right.
So do you focus on that in terms of your work?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Beats. That was the headphone that we did one of our first studies where it was blind. And lo and behold, when people weren't aware of the marketing and just focused on the sound, they had a different answer.
Tell us how that happened. Was there a number of different headphones? How many did you compare in the blind test?
So in this particular test, we just focused on 4 headphones. Mm-hmm. We had a prototype of what we believe was the best sounding headphone in the test. We had a very popular, highly regarded headphone that was $1,500. And then we had another highly regarded headphone that was a magnetic planar, $1,000. And then we had the Beats headphone. So quite a wide price range, quite a difference in sound quality. And we found that, lo and behold, the vast majority of people preferred this new reference headphone that we came up with. And
there's hope.
There was hope. And the fact that, and we tested a large number of people, over 260 people in Germany, China, US, as well as Canada. So we were also interested whether people would agree on what is good sound and whether there are any cultural differences. And it didn't matter where we did the tests. There was general disagreement that this new target curve we came up with was preferred over the other 3 choices.
Could you give me an approximate price range for those 4? Just, you don't have to be accurate. Just, well, you said you said $1,500.
Yeah. Well, the Beats was around $300, I think. It was the Beats Studio. We had a Sennheiser headphone that was $1,500, an open back. We had the magnetic planar was about $1,000. And the reference headphone was just a headphone at the time that we equalized to this target. So we just equalized the frequency response. And the current K371 comes pretty close to that target.
Apologies, but what range of prices are those in?
The K371s are about $150 street.
Wow, so it's cleaning house on $1,500 headphones. Right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
So one of the things we learned was that there was no correlation between price and sound quality. Wow. And there was another study done by a guy named Owen Grebart. He published this in the Acoustical Society of America, and he studied 283 headphones and found no correlation between price and frequency response.
Wow.
So that tells me the industry a few years ago had no idea.
What about the music genres that were in the test? Was there like a genre? Was there heavily leaning toward, like, how did that play out?
So this was one of the questions that our marketing folks asked, because they thought that maybe Beats had some special magic. It's optimized for hip hop or whatever. So we included hip hop, and as well as pop music, and there was no change. So yeah. So this notion that you need a classical headphone, a hip hop headphone, it's just not. Yeah, it's not true.
Speaking of that, I wonder, because you've had so much live experience, with the same headphones you use in the studio, would you go out on tour and tune up your guitar? And,
I mean,
because it's something you know?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, the word that comes to mind, it's benchmark. You know what I mean? So whenever I'm in the studio, or if I'm, mobile somewhere wherever I am, I want to find at least one, or if it's my gain staging set of Pro Tools, or I need some benchmark. So the headphones for me, recently adapted these guys right here. I really like them, still learning them a little bit, but I mean, it's a new benchmark for me. I'm learning them and I'm learning what's gonna stick, and it's something I can always lean on. So when I'm in a less ideal environment, for instance, place I could think of is, backstage on a tour somewhere, something that I need to be able to hear is like, all right, well, there's inconsistencies with rooms. Right. So it's like, you put speakers in a room, it's gonna sound different, whatever. But the headphones, to me, I mean, there's much less changing. You know, the environment around you probably to some effect, you could probably speak to that, you know, better than I could, but you know, there's much less of a margin of change. So that for me is a benchmark, the headphone. So, you know.
For me, I used to be angry at people that could mix a record on a plane or a train.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
I'm
know.
still jealous, I'll tell you
Yeah,
what.
me too. And that opened up for me so wide open that now I can go anywhere and have a benchmark. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably the thing about the headphones I like the most. I had a pair of headphones that were one of the expensive ones, and I never used them for 5 years. I gave them to my assistant, and he said, "You got to try these." And that's where I got hooked, because I could now go to France and do a mix.
Well, I was going to say that at some point in time, for people designing or dealing with acoustics, whatever the case may be, portability and mobility certainly had to become a factor in design. And is that correct? Did you have to go through that?
Yeah, I mean, headphones definitely allows a mobile experience, and the ultimate mobile experience now is, if you look at the growth in headphones, it's all true wireless headphones, in-ear headphones, because they can fit in your pocket.
Yeah.
And they give you some isolation from noise. A lot of people don't like sticking these in their ears, but it's a really huge growth market.
And I also think that we're fond of saying on the show that there's no place in the world that's silent, and so audio is everywhere, and you can't really do things without audio. You know, we've done everything from anatomy of a wildfire, because wildfires make their own sound. We've done Cedars-Sinai audio in the hospital, found out they had a sound department that they control the sound in operating rooms and hallways, but you use ultrasound and echo and all sound things. They break up your cataracts with ultrasound. So when we see that, when people understand that, you start thinking about the metaverse and gaming and everything, you can't have that experience without audio. Yeah. And you're generally going to have that through headphones, correct?
Yes.
And it's just amazing where it's going. Like, it's now a fundamental tool that you almost can't be without. Right. Yeah. I think is that a way to look at it?
Yeah, I mean, everything today has audio, and it's increasingly mobile, and it's headphones.
Where is, excuse me, where does the immersive come in? We need headphones that actually can amplify Atmos as good as possible. And is that something that the company is trying to research? Because you can't do it with one speaker in your headphone. Are you trying to get headphones that are good for Atmos? Yeah,
so we, in this building, we have a large lab where we measure people's head-related transfer functions. You're in a big sphere with 34 speakers all around you, and you rotate, and we actually can measure your head-related transfer functions.
Scares me. Does that scare you?
A little bit.
You got to see it. It's
I'm open-minded.
And when you can actually put headphones on and listen to generic head-related transfer functions that companies use, or you can listen to your own personalized ones. And the difference is, when you hear your own, all the sound sources come down to the right elevation. When it's incorrect, you tend to hear things above your head. And we actually measure with a laser pointer how accurate you can localize these sounds, and it's much more accurate when you
From a
listen.
technical perspective, how does that translate to headphones?
So once you have your own set of personalized HRTFs, you can use a DSP in the headphone or in your phone and apply
before
that.
it gets to the driver, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was taking a friend of all of ours, Robin Roomer, to the airport, and he's a instructor with Abbey Road in Miami, and also a founder of a plugin company called Leapwing. And we had just come from something where Dolby Atmos was in a Tesla, and you could sit in the Tesla. And all the way to the airport, he just kept saying, "Imagine her sound that doesn't come from down below; it comes at you from here." And I started to pull over and pour some water on him. He was a little overly excited, but it was interesting how definitive it was for him that the experience would be different in your car, I, of course, am trying to convince them to do my car in Atmos, but I don't know if I'm going to get there. But it's such a growth space that is become, you're kind of, if you don't have it, you're behind. Like, you're not having the same experience. So whether you're doing this competitively or just want to listen at the right place, and when they think about the size of gaming and stuff like that, and what kids are going to learn, so consumers are now learning earlier that they need to have a good audio experience to compete, right? So that's good for the companies, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
Shots at you.
It's good for the space, and it's keeping in line with where how people are consuming, and where, most importantly, where people are consuming all these different, all this different content that has exploded in the last 2.5 years. Between gaming and all of the Atmos content that's released on, all the big streaming platforms, people just aren't sitting at home like that, with full, the 5.1 systems, right? So the next question is, okay, well, if you're going to consume your show on your iPad or whatever, how do I do that and get a better experience, right? So it just naturally is going to have to shift, or is shifting to, as you mentioned.
I've noticed in my car that if I get loud enough, I can create 5.1.
Because you can't tell where it's coming from.
Yeah. So saves you money.
Yeah. Just turn it up.
So where does it go from here? What's the new frontier? Is there a new frontier that you guys are starting to look at that you brainy types are saying, down the road, you're not gonna need any form factor. You're gonna have a chip in your wrist. Let's hope not. Let's hope it doesn't go that far. But there's still improvements. There's still things to.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're definitely focusing on immersive audio in cars, but also in the home, whether it's sound bars or sound bar is obviously a growth area, and then for headphones as well. And I think in the car, what a lot of people are focusing on now is personal delivery systems, so that you can have 5 people in the car listening to different content, and there's a certain amount of isolation. And headphones obviously are perfect for isolation, so you may see more and more headphones in cars.
That would be crazy.
You'll buy your car, and then one of the trims will be 9 headphones, and
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Hopefully wireless, but
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Is the open back headphones is the open back headphone still usable in some of these environments? 'Cause I use open backs. Do you?
no, I haven't. Closed back. I'd like to try open ones though.
I mean, right now open backs are mostly have a lot of interest in the high-end community, and passive headphones. You don't see many $1,500 headphones that have DSP or amplifiers or Bluetooth in them. We actually make one that's $1,000, but it's unusual. And the big downside is that they don't offer you good isolation from noise.
By the nature of the fact that they're open.
They're open. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Interesting.
I mean, we work in a studio.
Yeah. I guess if you're tracking next to the singer, though, I mean, like for me personally, I'll use Golden as an example, 24K Golden.
I got addicted to my headphones.
Yeah, I mean, you juice them, you turn them up, and then they're tracking right there. They've got their headphones cranked up louder than mine because, I'm trying to protect my ears, but they're trying to get in the zone, and if they're open back, you bleed. So, I mean, that's something that I'm watching out for. So the closed backs when we're cutting, that's always
It's always good
helpful.
soloing tracks when you're mixing.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like,
Is that a click?
Headphone.
And you're like, great,
Lots
yeah,
of it.
yeah. The click, I always filter the top of the click so it doesn't come through. And sometimes, whatever, little tricks. But I mean, yeah, closed backs for me.
When you're in the studio, or you guys are in the studio, are you ever wireless or Bluetooth? Or you always
I'm too scared. I like to be plugged in.
plugged in?
Yeah, I like to
You
be
too?
plugged in.
a bit of a hybrid. I have experimented with the Bluetooth piece specifically because we put out a Bluetooth version of the 371 headphone, and I wanted to see what that experience was like. To see if why are we doing this? Does it make sense? Does it translate? Do I really need to be plugged in? So I'm still primarily plugged in, but I do reference on Bluetooth headphones. It's a thing. I mean, that's what guys like you're moving around. You're mobile, right?
Yeah.
And the experience of listening to something you just mixed on a headphone that you just mixed it on, but you're outside in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, if your sound source is a phone, there is no audio jack. So
It's true.
Bluetooth
Yeah.
is the only option.
That makes the most
right?
sense. Do you get interference when you have the Bluetooth if you're in the studio on the mic or anything?
No.
Maybe I'll have to switch for the artist then so they can move around, you know?
No. I mean, Bluetooth is not the most secure protocol, obviously, but it's not. I've never experienced any problems.
Fair enough. That's awesome.
There's
Go ahead.
there's a serious trend right now of engineers not going to studios, like traveling with an artist and each day working in a different room with headphones. Yeah. And you know who they are, and I don't want to name names.
A lot of friends. Yeah.
Damn near everybody. Yeah. Everybody who can go on the road.
Yeah, literally. If you got a laptop, you're everywhere. So,
Absolutely right. And you know, what's fascinating to me now is to continue to check back in to see how you guys in use cases, mixing, tracking, selling, educating, breaking ground. We should maybe do this as a series because I think ultimately for our audience at home, a whole ton of you are mixing on headphones and you're tracking and you're listening and you're talking on the phone and I don't think that you can ignore anything you might do with headphones. So it's not just what you do with music. You also need to protect these, right? Like if you damage these, you're not just hurting your money, you're hurting your life. And I think it's important. In the early days of Pensal's Place, I don't know if it was the Grammy Foundation or something, they would give us things to put in our ears to protect us from loud sounds. They're like plastic things. And that's where the sophistication level was at that point in time. But there was an acknowledgement that you have to protect these. And particularly if you don't learn that early, you can, when things are this in your ear and you go nuts, you can do damage, correct?
Oh yeah. In fact, this, along with headphones taking off in the last 10 years, there's more and more hearing damage observed in teenagers because they're listening 8 hours a day at high sound pressure levels, and the current generation is much more deaf than our generation at that age.
Wow. That's why nobody listens to us.
What?
Good to know you're part of the current generation. That's a good thing.
Just to toss in something, I think that good engineers use speakers, but good engineers check what they're doing on speakers with headphones regardless. You always learn something, right? Especially panning and in depth and a lot of things, and sometimes you catch negative things that you need to fix. So I'm a firm advocate of headphones. And by the way, you can mix low on headphones. It's not, you don't necessarily have to be loud to mix. And
it's discipline.
Yeah.
I'm always like.
Yeah, I was scared because I have a best friend who accidentally had headphones on. It was too loud, and now he can't hear in one ear. That scared the heck out of me. So I really think it's prudent to work low. Working low on headphones is not like working low on speakers, you know.
Well, you're less dependent on the room when you're, and you probably know, like, my first reach is to make sure the headphone volume is down on, and then turn it, you know.
Well,
like
with a speaker, as you get louder, you get the curve like this.
It starts to attenuate, yeah.
Whereas on the headphones, the curve stays the curve going up and down, so you don't lose anything.
That's what I enjoy.
One of the differences between speakers and headphones is that with a speaker, you tend to get this tactile feedback from that you feel through your feet. Whole body vibration. And years ago, we were trying to do binaural recordings in cars and compare different cars through headphones, and we found that there was always some missing bass. You could sit in the car, listen to the speakers, then put on the headphones, and there was about 3 dB less bass. So we found that if you increase the bass by about 3 dB, you make up for that lack of tactile feel. So I think sometimes people turn up headphones because maybe there's not enough bass and they're trying to compensate for that. So if your headphones are well balanced and accurate, I think you won't have that tendency to turn it up.
Yeah. Also spending time on the headphones too. I know for me, like learning a new pair, I've had them for a while, but learning how to fill that headphone or that speaker, I mean, it's all the same to create that benchmark, spending the time, low volume, like you said, just getting time with the device and like not giving up on it and just
Do you have a process for benchmarking? I know I have one, but what do you have? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your...
I just work as if I was going to work, and then just go to the car, listen on the car, listen on the old wired Apple earbuds, listen to those. That usually shows me something. Then I can kind of gauge if I don't change everything. I'm not going to change speakers, headphones, and all at once, because then it's all gone. But I've got the car, I've got the Apple earbuds, and then if I'm switching one of them out, like I got a new car.
So you're kind of A/Bing between the different...
Exactly. I got a new car recently. I'm going to lean on the headphones to try to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's kind of how I do it. But I just work. I just go, work intuitively, try to just follow the gut, and then check back and see what happens and see what mistakes I've made.
You do some stuff for television as well. Yep. And can one set of headphones work for your music side and work for your television side? I know the television side is music, but sometimes you're writing to picture or whatever the case may be. Do the same headphones work for both?
It works for both because my philosophy that I've learned through a mentor is that, A/B your stuff to other records. And the way I benchmark is I literally would just listen to whatever, something that I know, records that I know in different genres on the headphones. And then I'm kind of learning, if you will, in a non-scientific way, what that headphone is doing based on the music I'm listening to. So, regardless of the end placement of the music, it should sound like something in its genre. If I do a classical piece or a big orchestral piece, I pull up a John Williams track or a Danny Elfman track, and I listen, I A/B, and I go back and forth on headphones. And I check what Dave mentioned, the depth, the width, am I hearing the verb this way, am I hearing it this way? But I feel like depending on the space that you're in, the headphones will reveal that stuff that the speakers will not reveal. Again, depending on the space. If you have a very well treated room, a very well, acoustic setup that is ideal for that type of listening environment, probably don't have to do that, but I have not had that. So for me, it's the workaround. And if I'm listening and studying these tunes, then I'm creating, like, in my brain, like a map of what the profile of that sound is. And I just want to match that, and I do that on headphones. So.
By the way, the late great Kobe Bryant used John Williams as 12 too.
Did he?
Yep. He talked to him. He talked to him a lot about excellence and how he felt like the way he did movement and stuff translated to what he did on the court. They met and talked a lot.
Really? I didn't know
Same
that.
thing with Michael Jackson, a whole lot of stuff. A whole lot of facts that have nothing to do with headphones. Yeah. So if you need some facts that have nothing to do with headphones, here I am. It's interesting how at different times, depending on where you are in the industry, you end up on the cutting edge of technology. Sometimes you're behind it and other people are doing interesting things. But if you're dealing with headphones, you are right on the tip of the board. Right, because it has just become a piece that people don't live without now. People talk on their phones through headphones. Like, I still haven't quite gotten there. I'm like, oh God, I feel old if I put my phones in my ear. They're like, Herb, just get on speakerphone at least. Like, don't. But it's just the way it feels to me. Like we'll be answering the door from our headphones and be able to turn on Ring and be able to. Like all that's possible, correct?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I can work from the kitchen, you know what I mean? I'm watching the kids, it's a very delicate balance, but the headphones allow me to do that, which is nice, because then I can, for me, it's kind of more of a sentimental note, but it's like I can spend a little more time with my family, which is nice and makes me happier, makes me more inspired. Yeah. So,
but it's also things that companies that research it so sort of have to think about in terms of possible markets, things that your headphones should do, and for music, be able to go in and mix. Like it's this wide range of things. Really, it's fascinating.
Neurologists tell us that the ear compensates for what you lose hearing-wise, and so if you have a grasp of how your headphones should sound, your hearing adapts to that, and then the same thing with speakers, but your ear won't adapt to too many things, and so you have to, but I've always found that fascinating that the brain, because I got down about a dB at 2.5 in this left ear, but I don't hear it that way now. It's crazy the way that works.
So do you feel like your other ear is kind of compensated for it, or does it kind of balance it out?
It doesn't feel like this ear went anywhere, but I definitely feel like I'm hearing the 2.5 in this ear. And that go type in neurologist hearing and check their
Well, I'm going to,
background.
before we wrap up, I'm going to do something for all the couples out there. We had Dr. Susan Rogers on from Berkeley, and she talked about that the way men hear and the way women hear, and also somehow the distance between your left and right ear could be a predictor of an argument, and also how to lessen that, the intensity of the argument. Go back and watch the episode.
Really?
Yeah, we were sitting there going,
Yeah.
oh God, so that's why my relationship is over. But it was really fascinating because much like you, she's super educated, and things that you just wouldn't think about, she thinks about and has data to prove, much like Dr. Olive does. And I just want to say for our community, where we'd be without you. Like, you guys allow us to give tools and provide tools and give people to make a living and provide for their families and pull themselves out of things and also protect themselves and be part of what's cutting edge. Says a lot about the place we're in, the building we're in, and the dedication to us. Why we love AKG and the Harman folks and all that stuff. Anything else? Any parting shots before we get out of here? No?
My only thought is, I think at the end of the day, we can get lost in the technical piece of things a lot. If we can, no matter what's going on around us and how much technology is changing, if we can just always remember that, like, we're all doing the same thing. Essentially, we're just trying to improve everyone's life, right? And music is the soundtrack of everyone's life to some degree. And it all needs to always steer back to that. If we're always steering back to the experience that music provides us, Dave, you were telling a story a little earlier about,
Please don't.
No, it was inspirational.
Can we cover this in private?
Okay, yes,
Okay.
yes,
No, I'm
absolutely.
serious. I'm not
Yeah.
serious. Go ahead.
No, there's parts of our lives that we can always relate back to music somehow, and those are experiences that stick with us. And I think that if we just focus on creating those experiences in other people, however that is, be it research and development, be it actual, in the field doing the things, then these type of things will just kind of naturally, grow and provide a service to everyone. So
Nothing underscores that point more, that when you look at this crazy news from Ukraine and this incredibly brutal war, oftentimes you'll see somebody singing, or they gather and utilize music to lift their spirits and get through things. And we can't forget what music does and why we're all stewards of it and why it's important. Yep. And you guys are the people who make it. You've had Damien Curry, musician and product manager, Nick Mack, all around badass at Electric Fields, incredible guitar player. Dave Pensado, the master blaster with Pensado's Place, Dr. Sean Olive, who, thank you so much for your education, what you're doing and how you are advancing the ball. And what I love is you're not suffering fools. You love it, but you're also making sure you're pushing the envelope. Thank you for that, absolutely. Guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Peace.